Learn the optimal positioning and spacing for your weapon. A lot of guides are going to tell you, oh, you should use this weapon or that weapon, but they're not really telling you that you should learn your weapon's effective range so you're not sitting there playing at a bad position. Because, for example, if you're playing dual swords, you're going to want to be up close to them, obviously. But that might not be the same if you're playing a light bowgun. Like, what are you doing? Stop baiting. It's going to help you clear out monsters a lot more effectively, and you will also be able to get a lot more efficient damage windows. For these next tips, it would be best if you follow along screen because I'm going to be talking about tips for when you're in your tent. Starting off with customization. I don't know about you, but I was born to be fly. And I like looking good when I'm hunting. You can go to your tent and put on layered armor. This has been in the other Monster Hunter games, and you're going to want to scroll all the way over to the last option where it's going to allow you to customize the appearance of both your hunter and your palico. And when you unlock your secret, you can customize all of that in your tent. It's great because it gives you customization options like changing the color on your armor set in case you got a piece of armor that you really love the look of it, but you don't care for the colors too much. You can do all of that within your tent. It's very convenient and nice. As a quick extra tip, you can use this knob, this slider. You can just move this around as opposed to having to very meticulously and tediously move these smaller sliders around. You can just move this larger one and you can customize your colors a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. While you're inside the tent, you want to cook food with your rations. This is going to make it so you're just getting good overall health and stamina buffs. If you don't want to use up your ingredients, if you're just fighting a general monster, which will pretty much just give you a flat HP and stamina buff, just so that you don't have to use your higher end ingredients for just some lower end monsters that you're farming. One last tip for the tent is you want to make sure that when you're crafting, because you will be picking up a lot of materials, that you want to make sure you're putting it in your item box. This actually just happened to me. I thought I didn't have enough materials to make my pitfall traps, and I actually saw that I had enough materials. It's just they were in two separate locations. I don't know how often this happens to other people, but just make sure you're checking up on what's in your pouch versus what's in your box. If you want to make something and you think you don't have the materials, you might just have them scattered across two different locations. For the combat tips, like the game mentions, they have a focus mode where you can aim your attacks. What you may know is that as you attack the monster, you will be opening up wounds on them, and the game incentivizes you to use your focus attack so that you can get some massive damage on them. I would actually say that you should hold off on doing that attack immediately, because the other property that wounds have is that you do increase damage to them. So I would say that you should, the moment you see a wound open up on the monster, keep attacking that spot specifically. Don't go to immediately use your focus attack. You should attack it and try to maximize that window of damage. So keep attacking it until you feel that the monster is going to topple over or like do whatever, and then that's when you do your focus mode attack, because you're going to be maximizing that window of damage. You'll be draining the monster's stamina more. Like, as you attack that specific wound, you'll be doing more stagger based on the weapons you're using. Overall, it's just a better usage of that damage window. Speaking of wounds, if you've ever rode a monster and just kept riding and bouncing on him, you can do you can do one of two attacks. Your light attack will open up wounds on the monster, while your weapon attack is going to be the one that does the massive damage to the wound. You're going to want to try to open up as many wounds as you can, specifically on the spots of the monster that you want to cut off. So if it allows you to go on the tail and wail on it, do that, because you're going to create a wound and then do your weapon attack after to inflict massive damage and possibly cut off the tail. It's a very good way to just rack up damage, and I would highly recommend making multiple wounds before you go for the part of the monster you actually want to hit for massive damage. Speaking on general tips though, one thing I would recommend checking is your monster field guide. It's going to be in your start menu. If you go into here, you'll actually see their weaknesses. You're going to see where their weak points are and the parts on their body that are breakable. So if you want to farm certain materials from them, great resource to see if their tail, for example, is severable, or if you need to break something on their body to get a certain piece of material. This is going to be your #1 resource
for researching the monster you're gonna fight and where you're supposed to fight them to be doing the most amount of damage.
Something you guys may have not known is you can do sneak attacks on monsters.
And you can very easily just engage with the monster right after.
I would recommend approaching them from the back because like all monsters are different, so you'll have to see. But typically you can approach them slowly and you'll get a free like 100+ damage to start the fight with.
For those of you who have played the game before, you will know this, but if you wear the same pieces of armor from a set, you will get set bonus skills. And this is going to give you a variety of different effects, from giving you more defense to having special effects happen while you're hunting monsters. This is going to be very helpful late game as you're making and fleshing out your character's build. You're going to want to pay really close attention to these as well as your accessories, because those two things together are going to really make your character stand out in terms of doing more damage, surviving longer, and being more effective in battle.
Something that goes without saying but can be overlooked is actually going to the training hub and seeing all of the moves that your weapon can do. For example, they have 2 new mechanics in Monster Hunter Wilds, being power clashes as well as offset attacks.
And walking into the training camp, if you press start, you can go to your weapon controls. So, for example, with the greatsword, you're going to see it says offset rising clash. And it'll explain on the right side, if you charge a rising slash and release it when the monster attacks, you'll be able to knock the monster back with it, and you'll follow up with a cross slash. So that's just with the greatsword, but every weapon in the game should have some description on if it can do an offset attack or a flash. If it doesn't say it, it probably can't do it, so I'm sorry to the 7 light bowgun fans, but I just don't think you guys have one. Some weapons may not even have an attack, but they might have some type of way to do power clash or an offset attack. So for example, with the hunting horn, it can't directly do an offset attack, but it has an offset melody with the special performance. So this can perform in the same way that an offset attack can. So just be sure to check and really read your weapon's controls to make sure what your weapon is capable of doing.
And as a quick last tip, use your secret before you use your whetstone so that you can move around while sharpening. I've seen a lot of people die with me on hunts because they stop to sharpen their weapon. Like, bro, use your secret. He can move for a reason. So with that, I appreciate you guys watching the video. This is a one-off random video. If it does well, it does well. I might revisit Monster Hunter. I don't know, but I'm just putting this out there. So if you guys want to see more content, like and subscribe, and more platform fighting content coming soon.